Hey everyone! If you could change one moment in this story, what would you change and why? Comment below. Now, onto the story. There were 20 frozen turkeys in my dad's driveway. Not in boxes, not in bags, just lined up on the asphalt like they'd marched in overnight and dropped dead from cold. Each one had a handwritten tag taped to the plastic wrapping, same three words: cook it yourself. And my dad? He just stood there in his robe and boots, staring down like they were landmines, mouth slightly open, coffee mug frozen midair. Meanwhile, my mom was laughing so hard on the phone she could barely breathe. "Rebecca," she gasped. He thought it was a threat. He checked the truck for explosives. I could see it in my head. Him circling the pickup truck, probably muttering about liberals and food waste, yelling about security cameras while the neighbors peeked through their blinds. He deserved every second of it. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. This wasn't some random prank either. This was surgical, deliberate. The endgame of years of tension, rules, silence, and slammed doors. If you just saw 20 turkeys on a driveway, you'd think I was being petty, spoiled, maybe even crazy. But if you knew what came before, if you knew him, you'd understand why I did it and why it worked. I didn't wake up one day and decide to deliver frozen poultry warfare to my childhood home. This moment, it was built inch by inch over decades of being steamrolled and dismissed, of pretending to smile through holidays planned like military drills, of phone calls where I said one sentence and he said 20, of getting shut out when I finally stood up for myself. So yeah, those turkeys weren't just a prank. They were a message. And I wasn't whispering it. I was sending it cold, heavy, and in bulk. But before I tell you about the moment that shook the neighborhood, the moment my father had to explain 20 birds on his property to 5 different neighbors, 2 delivery guys, and a suspiciously giddy mailman, I need to rewind. I need to explain what it was like growing up in that house, under that roof, with that man in charge. Because once you understand him, everything else makes perfect sense. He didn't run a household. He ran a campaign. Growing up, Christmas was a damn operation. I'm talking color-coded lights, synchronized timers, and laminated schedules taped to the fridge by Thanksgiving. He called it maximizing efficiency. I called it a hostage situation with cookies. Everything had to be done his way. Stockings had to be opened in a specific order. Oldest to youngest, no exceptions. Tree lights on at 6 a.m. sharp. Christmas breakfast, biscuits, bacon, and eggs. Scrambled, never fried. You think I'm kidding? One year, my cousin made a cinnamon roll in the microwave and my dad acted like she'd lit the carpet on fire. You didn't break rank. You didn't ask why. And for most of my childhood, I didn't. I followed every line, hit every cue. I was a soldier in my father's little holiday army, not because I loved the rules, but because I loved what Christmas meant under all that noise. My mom's cinnamon candles, the sound of Nat King Cole on that ancient radio, the way the snow clung to our old maple tree like powdered sugar, that stuff mattered to me. It still does, especially when I was overseas. During my second deployment, I was sitting in a tent on the outskirts of Kandahar, watching a bootleg Christmas DVD on a busted laptop. Some kid back home had sent us a care package with candy canes and fake snow spray, and I remember crying like an idiot when I saw it. But the thing that got me the most, what hit me square in the chest, was my mom's letter. She'd sprayed it with the same perfume she always wore, the one from the little glass bottle she kept on her dresser. That powdery lilac scent? I smelled it, and I was 10 years old again, standing in our kitchen, begging to lick the frosting off a mixing spoon. She wrote about the tree, how lopsided it looked without me helping to decorate it. She described every meal like it was poetry. She even made jokes about how the general, as she called him when he wasn't around, had added an extra hour to the schedule just in case someone breathed out of turn. I held onto those letters like they were gold. I'd unfold them, read them, fold them back, and slide them into my vest pocket like a talisman. It was the only soft thing I had in that place. But here's the thing. The longer I was gone, the more I changed. The military didn't just give me discipline, it gave me clarity. I started seeing through the noise. I realized I didn't need someone barking orders to feel like I mattered. I learned how to speak up, how to say no, how to hold the damn line. And when I came home, that didn't sit well with him. The first Christmas back, I suggested we open gifts after breakfast instead of before. Just one sentence. That's all I said. His fork hit the plate like a gavel. "We've done it the same way for 25 years, Rebecca. Don't start changing things just to make a point." I wasn't making a point. I just wanted to drink my coffee and breathe for a minute. But to him, any deviation was defiance. Any opinion I had was talking back. We started clashing over little things: decorations, food, even what music played during dinner. At first, it was quiet, passive digs, silent standoffs. But every time I pushed back, even just a little, he doubled down harder. I wasn't his little soldier anymore. And that scared the hell out of him. One night, he told me flat out, "I don't know who you think you are lately." And I said, without blinking, "I'm someone who doesn't need your permission to speak." He didn't yell. He didn't storm off. He just stared at me for a long time, like I was a stranger sitting in his house. From then on, the air between us shifted. Even when we weren't fighting, it felt like we were one wrong word away from setting off a landmine. The holidays turned into this tightrope act, me trying to show up without showing too much independence, him trying to pretend nothing had changed. But it had, and no amount of tinsel could cover that crack. That tension finally cracked the year before the turkeys. It was 2 days before Christmas, and the whole house felt like a loaded gun. My dad and I were circling each other like we were waiting for one of us to blink. He was in the living room adjusting the thermostat for the third time, and I made some comment. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was. Something about the heat, or how loud the music was, or maybe just how uptight everything felt. He looked up from the dial and snapped, "If you don't like how we do things here, you don't have to be here." I laughed, dry, sarcastic, sharper than I meant it to be. "Maybe I won't." Boom! That was it. "Then go," he barked. We both stood there, red-faced, breathing hard. I turned, grabbed my coat off the hook, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the wreath. But I still wrapped the gifts that night, every one of them, with neat little bows and handwritten tags. I made spiced pecans like my mom always did, packed them in glass jars with plaid ribbon. I wasn't going to let him take Christmas from me, even if I had to show up and hand off presents through gritted teeth. I figured we'd cool off. We always did. The call came the next morning. I was standing in my kitchen, mug in hand, thinking about whether I should call first. His name flashed on the screen. I picked up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hello?" He didn't waste time. "You're not coming this year." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're not welcome, Rebecca." "We'll do Christmas without the drama. I'll drop your gifts off next week." I didn't say a word. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My own father had just uninvited me from Christmas. "I think it's for the best," he added, like he was doing me some kind of favor. I didn't even hang up. I just set the phone down on the counter and stared out the window. The snow was falling in slow, lazy flakes. My neighbor across the street was stringing lights around his porch, humming something I couldn't hear. Inside, everything went silent. Even the fridge seemed to stop humming. I don't know how long I stood there, holding that coffee until it went cold in my hand. I just kept thinking, he really meant it. He shut the door, and this time he's keeping it closed. All those years I bit my tongue. All the birthdays and holidays and family dinners where I kept things smooth. Where I told myself it wasn't worth it. That he was just old-fashioned. That pushing back would just make things worse. It hadn't mattered. He didn't want a daughter. He wanted a reflection. And the second I didn't match what he saw in his own head, he slammed the door. I didn't cry. I wish I had. Maybe it would have released something. Instead, I walked over to the trash, dropped every single wrapped gift into the can, and slammed the lid. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid there in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow, my room lit by the glow of the porch light through the blinds, the kind of quiet that buzzes in your ears. My mind just ran circles. I thought about how I used to decorate cookies with my mom, how my dad used to measure the lights on the tree with a tape measure, how I wrote to them from base camps, clinging to those letters like they were the only real thing left, and how none of it had been enough. I reached over, grabbed my old army notebook from the nightstand, and flipped it open to a blank page. I wasn't sure what I was doing at first, just needed to move my hands, or maybe bleed something out onto the paper. I drew a turkey, rough, dumb little sketch. Big round belly, goofy beak. Underneath, I wrote 2 words. Cook it. I stared at that page for a long time, didn't laugh, didn't smile, but something clicked, something shifted. I didn't know what it meant yet, not fully. But I felt the first flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not sadness, control. When I woke up, the notebook was still next to me. The turkey sketch looked worse in the daylight. Crooked legs, one eye bigger than the other. But I couldn't stop staring at it. That stupid little drawing had power, not because it was funny, but because it wasn't. It was honest. And as I lay there, rubbing my thumb over the edge of the page, something started to form. An idea. Not a joke, not a tantrum, a message. And it hit me clear as day. One turkey wouldn't land. He'd shrug it off, toss it in the freezer, probably make soup out of it just to be smug. But 20? That was a different story. 20 was excessive. 20 was impossible to ignore. 20 was loud. And I knew exactly who to talk to about loud. I threw on jeans, boots, and my old army fleece, grabbed the notebook, and headed to the VFW hall down on South Main. It was still early, barely past 10, but I knew the crew would be there. Carl, Jean, Big Tony, and the rest of the regulars. Coffee and cussing was their morning ritual. Carl saw me walk in and waved from his usual table, eyes squinting under that faded navy cap of his. Well, well, if it isn't Corporal Christmas, got something for you, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. Need an op review? That got their attention. I flipped open the notebook and pushed it across the table. Carl looked down at the turkey drawing, then up at me with raised eyebrows. You planning to bomb Butterball headquarters or something? I leaned in. 20 turkeys, all delivered, one at a time, to my dad. On Christmas Eve, there was a beat of silence before Jean burst out laughing, wheezing so hard she had to grab the table. Carl nodded slowly, lips twitching. So, it's psychological warfare. Exactly, I said. He doesn't do chaos. He'll unravel by bird number 3. Big Tony leaned over and said, You got a name for this? Carl smacked the table. Mission Turkey. And just like that, it became real. We spent the next hour mapping it out like it was a damn battlefield plan. Who could help? Who had delivery contacts? Who had space in their freezer? Jean offered her nephew's delivery van. Carl said he had a contact at Marlene's courier service. Someone even pulled out a whiteboard from the back room. It was ridiculous, and it was perfect. The more we talked, the lighter I felt. The anger didn't go away, but it wasn't burning me up anymore. It had shape now. Structure. I wasn't sitting in the dark getting erased by a man who didn't want to hear me. I was taking up space, on purpose, and no, it wasn't about being petty. It wasn't even about making him look stupid. It was about the fact that for the first time in a long time, I was doing something he couldn't control, couldn't redirect, rewrite, or ignore. Jean reached over and squeezed my hand, her tone gentler than usual. He doesn't get to shrink you down, sweetheart. Not anymore, I just nodded. My throat felt tight, but I didn't let it stop me. Later that night, I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling again, but this time with my pen in hand and a page full of turkey sketches in front of me, each one messier than the last. I wrote down the words again, just like before. Cook it yourself. But this time, I added something underneath. Merry Christmas. R. I wasn't looking for a fight. I wasn't trying to hurt him. But I was done staying quiet. Mission Turkey was a go. The next morning, I drove straight to Jensen's grocery and made a beeline for the meat counter. Frank the butcher looked up from trimming a slab of beef, wiped his hands on his apron, and raised an eyebrow. You look like you're about to rob the place. I need 20 frozen turkeys, I said. He blinked. For what? A soup kitchen? Nope. Personal delivery. One address. 20 birds. Christmas Eve. Frank stared at me, then leaned in. You okay? Never better. He didn't ask more, just nodded slowly and said, Give me 2 days. I'll call my supplier. That was phase 1. Phase 2 was logistics. I called Marlene's delivery and asked for her directly. Marlene had gray hair with a pink streak and ran her courier company like a blackjack dealer. Fast hands, no nonsense. She picked up on the second ring. Rebecca? That you? I've got a weird ask. I'm listening. I need 20 frozen turkeys delivered in timed waves to one address Christmas Eve. Same name on each delivery. There was a pause, then a slow, cackling laugh. Oh, hell yes, she said. Let me check my routes. I'll slot you in by that night. I had it mapped out. 5 waves of 4 birds each, spread across the day. I marked them in my notebook like a mission log. Times, driver names, drop instructions. It wasn't poultry anymore. It was payload. Next, the letters. I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of plain brown tags and a Sharpie. No flourish, no fake holiday cheer. Just the same 3 words written 20 times. Cook it yourself. I tied each tag with twine and set them in a box next to rolls of packing tape and labeled bags. My apartment smelled like cardboard and cold plastic. There were ice packs in my tub. I hadn't even finished my own Christmas shopping, but I was elbows deep in frozen birds. Still, something about it felt clean, like closure in motion. But that night, the doubt crept in. I sat on the floor, surrounded by tape and twine, staring at a turkey in a plastic bag. It looked ridiculous. I started thinking maybe this was dumb. Maybe I was being petty. Maybe this would just harden him more, make him dig deeper into whatever power trip he'd been riding since I came home. That's when my phone rang. It was my mom. She never called late unless something was wrong. I answered quick. Hey. She was quiet for a second. I just wanted to say, I know things are rough between you and your dad. I don't want to take sides. I didn't say anything. She went on, soft and careful. He's stubborn, but he's also proud. And pride makes people do stupid things when they feel like they're losing something. I'm not trying to take anything, I said. I know that, she whispered. Just don't shut him out for good. There was a pause between us, long enough to hear her exhale. I wanted to tell her everything. The deliveries, the plan, the tags on the floor. But I didn't. Not yet. I'll be in touch, I said. She didn't push. Love you, sweetheart. Love you too. When I hung up, I looked around my apartment again. The chaos, the birds, the notebook still open to the mission map. This wasn't revenge. This was a message, and I wasn't backing down. Christmas Eve came cold and quiet. I was already up before the sun, pacing my living room like I was back on base waiting for a convoy. The turkeys were stacked neatly in insulated boxes by the front door, each with its handwritten tag, "Cook it yourself." Right on time, 8 a.m., the first driver from Marlene's showed up. Red van, engine humming, door swinging open like a countdown had started. He was wearing a Santa hat tilted sideways and chewing a toothpick like it owed him money. You, Rebecca? I nodded and handed over the first bird. He took it like it was a sacred object. Let the games begin, he said, and drove off. I stood there in the doorway, heart pounding. Not scared, just keyed up, focused, the way I used to feel before stepping off the plane into a new zone. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Rebecca, my mom said, voice already cracking with laughter. He thought it was a mistake. I grinned. Did he open the tag? Oh, he read it out loud like it was a death threat. Then he said, I don't even like turkey. That made me laugh hard, harder than I had in weeks. I went back to pacing, made coffee, checked the list again. Second delivery was due at 10. At 10:02, Mom called back. She didn't even say hello, just started wheezing. He's losing it? Two more showed up. He tried to tell the driver they had the wrong address, and the guy just said, Nope. Got your name right here, sir? I pictured it. My dad standing there in his flannel robe and winter boots, arms full of cold poultry, jaw twitching, neighbors watching through their curtains. He's stuffing them in the garage now, Mom said, still laughing. I caught him trying to wedge one behind the lawnmower. Where's he putting the tags? Oh, he ripped them off like they were cursed. But I kept one. It's on the fridge wave 3, landed around lunchtime. By then, the man was cracking. Mom texted me a photo. Just one, blurry, but enough. He was standing in the driveway with a cardboard box full of turkeys, looking straight at the delivery driver like he'd just lost a chess match to a raccoon. A minute later, she called again. Freezer shelf broke. What? Yep, he tried to cram 5 in the upright, and the middle shelf just gave out. Sounded like a gunshot. I burst out laughing. I couldn't help it. She added, he keeps muttering about the FBI and food safety. You've really done it now. By the time the fourth wave hit mid-afternoon, I was calm, almost peaceful, like the anger had burned through and left something smooth behind. I sat on the couch, sipping coffee, checking the clock between waves like it was a countdown to justice. There was nothing violent or dramatic about it. It was just steady, cold precision. Operation Turkey was working. He couldn't shout over this, couldn't send it back, couldn't shut the door on it. He had to see it. The final wave was due at 5. By then, the driveway was a mess. Boxes, plastic wrap, crushed ice leaking into the street. According to Mom, he'd started patrolling the front yard like he expected an ambush. Flannel robe and boots, she said. He's out there like he's guarding state secrets. I laughed again, but it wasn't sharp anymore. It was the kind of laugh that felt earned, because it wasn't about humiliating him. It was about being heard. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't yelling. I was speaking. Loud, clear, cold, just like the birds. At 6:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. I was sitting on the couch, lights off, drink in hand, watching snow drift past the streetlight outside. Everything was still. Quiet. No music, no TV. Just me and the ice in my glass. Voicemail from my dad. I let it play on speaker. Rebecca, I don't know what the hell you were thinking. You embarrassed me. I've got neighbors asking if I joined some food drive. You need to call me back. Now click. No Merry Christmas. No, are you okay? Just anger, pure and loud and choking. I didn't call back. I just sat there, eyes on the window, watching the snow pile up on the empty sidewalk. Bourbon warmed my chest. Everything else stayed cold. A few minutes later, Mom texted. He's outside now, sitting on the porch with his bourbon. Still in that damn robe, I could see it clear as day. Him hunched over in the porch chair, arms crossed, muttering to himself while a pile of half-frozen birds blocked his garage door. I took a sip and let myself smile. This wasn't rage. This wasn't revenge. This was the weight shifting. At 9 o'clock, she called. I answered this time. He's still stewing, she said. Tried to drag one of the turkeys inside, but it was leaking. I told him to leave it. I chuckled. He break yet? Not officially. But he asked if there were cameras. He thinks I filmed it. He thinks everyone's in on it. Mailman asked him if he was opening a poultry shop. I laughed harder this time. Not mean, just full. Honest. She added, he said, and I quote, she's out of her damn mind. She's ruined Christmas. I leaned back against the cushions, smiling into the dark. Sounds like a successful op to me. Christmas morning, the fallout went wide. My sister Katie called first. She couldn't stop laughing. I thought Mom was exaggerating, but no. He actually has turkeys stacked in the laundry room. He put 2 in the bathtub. Jesus, I said. Is he bathing them? He tried to wash one. The packaging split. I nearly dropped my coffee. You're kidding. I wish. He called it contaminated. Said he was under attack. Then she said it, mock serious. You've ruined Christmas. I froze for a second. Not because it stung, but because it didn't. She meant it as a joke, and I knew that. But for a split second, I thought about all the years I tiptoed around just to keep Christmas intact. All the silent dinners, all the fake smiles, all the times I folded in on myself so he could feel in charge. And for what? That old story didn't hold anymore. I hadn't ruined Christmas. I'd cracked it open. I sat by the window again that night, this time with cocoa instead of bourbon. Outside, the neighborhood was still, blanketed in snow, soft around the edges. Lights glowing from houses like little beacons. I thought I'd feel guilty. I didn't. But I did feel something else. Wistful, maybe. Not sad. Just aware of the space between us, the years stacked like cold storage between what we were and what we could have been. I wasn't trying to burn the bridge. I just refused to walk it blind anymore. The turkeys weren't just birds. They were a line in the snow. And for once, I was the one who drew it. The next evening, my phone rang again. Dad. I stared at the screen long enough for it to almost stop ringing. Then I picked up. His voice came through low and scratchy, like he'd been chewing gravel all day. You done? He asked. Depends, I said. You planning to send a marching band next? He didn't laugh, but he didn't hang up either. There was a pause, a long one. I could hear something creaking in the background, maybe the porch swing. Then he said, You embarrassed me. You shut me out, I snapped. What the hell did you expect me to do? More silence. I expected you to act like family, he muttered. I tried, I said. For years. I bent over backwards trying to stay in line, trying not to step on your damn rules. You didn't want family, Dad. You wanted soldiers. I wanted peace, he fired back. No, you wanted control. He didn't argue. Instead, he let out a long breath and said, You're part of this family, Rebecca. Whether I like it or not, I blinked. That was the closest thing to an admission I'd ever get from him. Not warm, not gracious, but it cracked the surface. And from my dad, that was a mile. He cleared his throat. The neighbors won't stop asking about the birds. One guy from church asked if we were hosting a cook-off. Tell him yes, I said. 20 rounds. Winner gets a broken freezer shelf. That time, I thought I heard the smallest breath of a laugh. Or maybe it was just him not yelling for once. After we hung up, I just sat there on the couch with the phone still in my hand. The edges of the call played back in my head, not the words, but the shift, that slight tilt in his voice, like something heavy had been knocked loose. The next day, Mom sent a text. He's not mad anymore, just confused and kind of amused. The turkey story was spreading fast. Katie called me again, said someone posted about it in the local Facebook group. Apparently, you're a mystery icon, she said. One woman called it the Christmas poultry incident. I grinned. Please tell me Dad's enjoying that. He pretends he's not, but I caught him smiling when someone asked if we were opening a deli. By the third day, it was out of our hands. Everyone had a version of the story. My cousin asked if it was some kind of passive-aggressive protest. Someone else thought it was performance art. But then, late that afternoon, I got the photo. It came from Mom. No text, just the image. Dad, standing out back by the old rusted grill, holding a beer in one hand and a pair of tongs in the other. One of the turkeys, clearly roasted, sitting in a foil tray beside him. He was wearing his flannel robe and boots, and he was grinning. Big, real, unguarded. I stared at that picture for a long time. Then I laughed. Loud. Too loud. Laughed so hard my stomach cramped. Laughed until my eyes watered and I had to sit down. Not because it was funny, though it was, but because something in that photo broke the tension I didn't even realize I'd been holding in my chest. He wasn't broken, and neither was I. He still hadn't said sorry. Probably never would. That wasn't how he worked. But that smile? That was a beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I believed we might actually be standing on the same side of the snow. A week after New Year's, I pulled into my parents' driveway for the first time in months. The snow was thick and uneven, fresh tracks winding through the powder. My dad was out front, bent over a snow shovel, clearing the walkway with slow, stiff motions. Same flannel robe, same boots. No hat, just a wool scarf looped around his neck like he was gearing up for a battle with pneumonia. He looked up when he heard the car door close. Didn't wave, just squinted at me through the cold. I walked up, boots crunching in the snow. You know there are machines for that, right? He grunted. I don't trust machines. Clearly. He jabbed the shovel into the snow and leaned on it. You here to drop off frozen meat or just checking on the elderly? I smirked. That depends. Got any room left in the tub? He huffed, almost a laugh, then stepped aside and motioned toward the house. Go on in. I opened the front door and it hit me like a wave. Cinnamon, wood smoke, something faintly citrus. It smelled like December again, like home before the tension. Mom popped her head out of the kitchen, cheeks flushed. I just pulled cinnamon bread from the oven. Sit down. I'll bring you some. I peeled off my coat and sat on the same living room couch that had hosted 2 decades of forced smiles and choreographed holidays. It looked smaller now, or maybe I didn't feel so boxed in anymore. Dad walked in slowly, brushing snow from his sleeves. He didn't sit at first, just stood by the mantel, looking at the fireplace like it owed him an answer. I looked like a damn idiot, he said finally. No venom. Just the words, dropped like bricks. I turned toward him. You made me feel like I didn't matter. His jaw tightened, but he didn't snap back. He let the words hang there like smoke. He finally sat, stiff and slow, into the armchair across from me, arms resting heavy on the sides, not crossed for once. We stayed quiet for a minute. Then Mom stepped in, plate in hand, voice soft but clear. Maybe this can be a new beginning. For all of us, Dad didn't look at her, just reached for a slice of bread, tore it in half, and said, long as she doesn't send 30 turkeys next time. 20, I corrected. I could have done more. That made him grunt again. A low, tired sound, but not angry. Mom gave me a knowing glance and headed back to the kitchen, giving us space without making a show of it. I looked around the room. Same old bookshelf, same old lamp with the crooked shade, but it felt different now, like the house had exhaled. I didn't need an apology, not anymore. I just needed this. The seat at the table, the open door, the acknowledgement that I wasn't something to be managed. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. That wasn't us. But as we sat there side by side in that familiar quiet, I realized something had shifted. The turkeys weren't a fracture. They were a reset. Katie showed up later that night and immediately brought it up. He told the neighbors you were delivering protein rations, she whispered in my ear, said he had a strategic surplus. By the time dinner hit the table, everyone was calling it the turkey incident. It was already legend, and for once, The story was mine. The next morning, Mom handed me a dish towel and opened the basement freezer. "Come help me deal with your legacy," she said, grinning. The thing was still packed to the brim. At least 4 turkeys wedged together like frozen boulders. She started digging while I held the lid open. "You know," I said, "we could probably set up a roadside stand." "Holiday meats, slightly traumatized," she snorted. "You joke, but the church pantry already took 5. We wrestled one loose, and I nearly dropped it. My hands were half numb from cold. "Jesus, how long does poultry last in here?" "As long as your father's ego." That made me laugh. Not polite laughter, real. Deep from the gut. Right then, Dad walked past the door, shovel in one hand, newspaper under his arm. Without slowing down, he tossed out, "Might join the chicken corps next year." "See if they're less trouble," I doubled over, gasping. Did you just... Did he really? Mom was giggling behind the freezer lid. "Told you!" Man's got jokes now. And in that moment, surrounded by the smell of cinnamon bread and freezer burn, I felt it click. Not fixed, but open. Revenge didn't solve everything. It didn't rewrite the years or fix what we never said out loud, but it cracked a door he'd kept slammed shut for a long time. And for the first time, I wasn't looking through the window. I was inside. So maybe your turkey isn't a bird. Maybe it's a letter, a phone call, a boundary, a scream. Or maybe it's just one loud, undeniable act that says, "You will see me." If you've got your own turkey story, tell it. Make them see you. Make them laugh. Just don't let them shut you out.